welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to another episode of Inside Personal Growth. Matti, I don't really know exactly what episode this is going to be. The last one I looked at was 1050 over 17 years. So it's a lot of podcasts on a lot of subjects. But all my listeners know that my focus on health, wellness, and longevity has been there. We have a whole series on wellness and well-being. And today's episode with Matti, and Matti, I don't want to mess up your last name, so you say it, because he's from Finland, is?
Well, Rajakylä. Rajakylä is the last name. You can think of the J in the middle as the Y, so that it might be a little bit easier for you to pronounce.
Okay, Rajakylä. So yeah. Matti is the North American General Manager for Stromer Bikes. And as people can see, I'm wearing one of the t-shirts, and you're probably wondering, so what's the connection here? I've found them through doing some searches and found out what a high quality bicycle e-bike they were making, and was being made in Switzerland and distributed all throughout Europe and now the United States. And I decided I wanted to get involved in a way that I could help bring this to, I'm going to just call it the business, the heartbeat of America, America's business and corporations. And so I helped Matti think through a program for corporate wellness, which we're going to be talking about a little bit today, the bicycle itself and about Matti's background. So Matti, let's just kind of start this out. People know it's about an e-bike. They know that it's a really, really well-made e-bike. If you look it up, we'll put links on this podcast to their website as well. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got here, and even more importantly, what really made me intrigued about you was some of your personal background in spirituality. Now, so I don't freak out my listeners, we have a segment on spirituality in this show. So this isn't unusual because we cover 4 topics. We cover business, personal growth, wellness, and spirituality. And Matti has a really good story, and I'd love for him to incorporate that. And then the second part of that question, Matti, is, how did you move from where you were to coming to work for this company, which isn't a huge company, but it's a pretty decent sized company in Switzerland, representing e-bikes here in the United States?
Well, Greg, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And so starting probably off with the early 2000s, my career at that time was in pro sports. I was a professional swimmer. So I attended 2004, 2008 Olympics. So that's kind of like my starting point for everything that has come to fruition to these days. I would say that after I retired from my swimming career after the Beijing Olympics, and at that point I was pretty burned out. Burned out in the sense that I always had these dreams of achieving high goals in my sports, and always when achieving them, I was not satisfied with everything that I achieved. So I would say that there was a fearful or discontentment about my achievements. I was always wanting for more and more, and to put it simply, I was not happy. And I always have this questioning mind. I would say a very curious mind that I always want to figure out what's going on externally and internally, and obviously that led me to all of the places. Basically led me to India. And I found an ashram after my swimming. I found an ashram in South India, and for an athlete in me, disciplined lifestyle, and then going deeper into life's questions and what is truly important about your life. and how to find happiness in this life, no matter what is the circumstances or the exterior circumstances that you might have. You might be the richest person in the world, you might be the most successful athlete, you might be the poorest person in the world. At the same time, we're all striving for happiness. So that
I think it's also, you say this, but it's kind of what we're longing for. I think meaning, peace, and happiness. Now, you know, I can insert in here that no matter how many things you buy, they're never going to fulfill your happiness. So the better house, the better car. Happiness is an inside job. No one does it for you. You learned that in the ashram. And the reason I'm inserting arms is because whether it's an e-bike or a regular bike, it doesn't matter. The thing here is, for our listeners, including the corporate listeners today, is that there is so much a sense of joy and happiness when you get outside. You just get outside. And I wanted to insert this because the more people spend some time outside, the better off they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then and it essentially that kind of like I needed to find this internal happiness in order to, I would say, not function in the world, but, you know, like to bring that out for the world. And that, fast forward to 2022, I was doing, you know, coaching jobs. I had my own business that I was running. And then I was out of really nowhere asked to do this work for Stromer. So the CEO asked me that, hey, do you want to join the company and start running the North America, because they had a good experience with experiences hiring ex-athletes. And I said, I don't really know anything about the industry, but I don't really know anything. He basically said that, okay, I don't care about that. I just need somebody I can trust. You'll learn everything else. So I've been here for 2 years now, and I'm super excited about this, especially, first of all, the product that we have. I want to work for a company that has those core values that we're offering. Obviously, you know, making people commute more, being sustainable, and improving people's health and well-being. And it's been just a fantastic ride. And as I said, the product is amazing. So it's easy for me to stand behind that.
Well, obviously, when values are aligned, people are more, I'm going to say, enthusiastic, number one. Number two, there's much more engagement. And I find that you're super engaged with this process. And it's one of the reasons that I enjoy partnering with you on this new endeavor. Now, you know, Stromer Bikes has gained quite a reputation for high performance and innovative design. Anybody out there looking, just go to www.stromerbikes.com or bike. You do either or, and you'll get there. And I'd like for you to share those core values that drive Stromer's approach to creating this e-bike. The gentleman that founded the company was obviously an engineer and had toiled hours and hours around designing bikes and figuring out how to do this and how to keep doing it better. And particularly, the next part of this question is really the company's core values around promoting health and wellness. I think this is as important as how much the bike is engineered, you know, how well it's engineered. So could you comment on that? Because you've been around all the founders, the people, the engineers, the designers, the people in the factory. You get it from the ground floor up. I can't say that I have, but I will one day.
Well, first what we need to kind of look into is that what is Stromer? Everything thinks that it's an e-bike, but we always think that Stromer is a vehicle. We're not even thinking that, okay, we're going against other bike companies. We are not competing with Specialized Trek, or even though that we might be in the same space, like bike shops and things like that. But what we really want to our main message that we want to give is that Stromer is a vehicle. It's a replacement of your car in some sense. And that's what we're trying to build. It's obviously, you see the design is gorgeous. If you look at the bike, that's being one of our DNA. So we always talk about the Stromer DNA. There's 5 pillars to it. We have the design. We won multiple design awards on all of our models, and always keep on winning them. Oh, it's Stromer again. And then the other big part is connectivity of our bikes. All of our bikes are interconnected. They all have an inbuilt computer in them that has a 4G chip in it, and that you can track the bikes, and you can track the mileage and see all these things, and you can control everything what's going on in the bike. And then range being one of them. Our bikes go up to 110, 120 miles range, and then safety being one part of them. Because obviously now the e-bike market these days is almost like a Wild West, especially in the US. Everybody's flooding into the market. There's all kinds of product. But Stromer has been around since 2009. We've been building bikes, and we have a lot of experience. And our core, and those 5 different pillars are kind of like the core values of the company as well. We want to make riding bikes obviously fun, but then at the same time you have the sustainability goals, you have the wellness goals that you want to also target, and those are actually in the core of the whole Stromer product.
Very well said. And I think that for, again, the listeners, whether you're an individual listener listening to this, or you're in corporate America, or you have a company, I would like to impress on you that this program that we've quoted, this wellness program, to help improve employees' overall well-being. So when you improve well-being, you improve productivity, and you also improve higher levels of satisfaction, you reduce turnover. So the investment in the bike is not just an investment in a bike. It's an investment in truly all these intrinsic things that are going on. Because if you took a balance sheet and if you just said, well, this was the cost of the bike, well, no, you have other costs in your business. And I want to impress this upon people, because there used to be formulas around the human life value. In other words, what was an employee worth? The employee is worth an investment like this. And you call this a bit of a commercial, but I think I've been around on the planet long enough that it's really important to make these investments. So how do you see the Stromer Bikes fitting into a corporate wellness strategy? And what results have you seen from companies that maybe have adopted it, and if any at this point? That's one. And then 2, I'd like to point out to some of the naysayers about electric bikes or e-bikes that if you type in almost anywhere, you're going to find NIH studies, you're going to find studies all over, that they found just increasing the heart rate even marginally for over an extended period of time is actually just as good as running a full-on 880 sprint to get your heart rate at, 150 beats a minute, right? So it's been proven that e-bikes, because there are people out there that don't believe it, they go, oh, well, people aren't getting enough exercise. If they were commuting to work, they would be getting exercise. So my question to you is, how do you see it fitting in? And what have you seen, if anything, Matti, with relation to companies who are adopting these programs? We know Google has one. We know LinkedIn has one. We know many companies have them. What would you tell our listeners?
Well, starting from basically like, okay, the argument that the e-bike doesn't provide you any exercise, it gets you moving. And it's always, it's not like a motorcycle. So you always have to remember, if you've never ridden an e-bike, you still get a little bit of an exercise. I would argue that if you do a trip to, let's say, call it 5 miles, that it's usually an average commute for Americans, and they usually do that with the car. Even if you replace that twice or 3 times a week, and try to do that, there's a significant increase for your wellness. Any exercise, anything that you do to move your body, get out of your office or get out of your car, there is so much of data that can prove, even if it's a low heart rate, it doesn't need to be vigorous activity to get you moving, and the benefits for your physical and mental well-being are tremendous. And then answer to your second question is that, do I have any data or experience of other companies doing it? Unfortunately, I don't have exact data. However, in Europe, we have bike leasing programs of all kinds, and then many of the companies are using that as an employee benefit. And I can do a little bit of name dropping here, Rolex being one of them, so everybody knows the prestige Swiss watch company. Their CEO is a huge fan of Stromer. He's riding and commuting to work almost on a daily basis with the Stromer. And what he ended up doing is that they have a parking garage at their main headquarters and office, and he replaced not all of it, but big chunk of that parking garage to only store e-bikes into that area. So he's encouraging his employees to ride a bike to work, and there are so many benefits, physical and mental. And now I also know the practical side of it. I've talked to some of the companies here in the Bay Area where I live, and they are facing a big commuting issue now, that they have to solve many problems in terms of people commuting, let's say from San Francisco to Silicon Valley. And they are using obviously buses, they're using Lyft and Uber credits for their employees. And then the other situation that they're also going to end up for people who are driving into the place, that they have to build extra parking structures. So if you think of those kinds of problems, I have one solution: an e-bike. People, if they ride to work, and that investment that they would need to put into building a new parking structure, why don't they just buy or lease a fleet of e-bikes and try to encourage their employees to do that? I know that they are actively working to that, but in the US especially, it has to be a culture change. But I know that slowly this change is coming, and people are understanding more and more that there's a lot of benefits, not only monetary, but also intangible benefits for people that would ride an e-bike.
Yeah, we are seeing it. And as you said, it is being adopted slowly, and thus the purpose for this podcast. So for anybody who's listening out there, obviously, who gets the link to this podcast, we're trying to inform you about the benefits. We understand the benefits of it. And another thing I want to talk about, because in many cultures, you were talking about in Germany and in Belgium and places where people are replacing their cars, we obviously haven't done that yet here, because sometimes because of the terrain, the distances, the cities aren't laid out the same, you could say all kinds of reasons. But believe me, in most of the cities that we're addressing here, San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Francisco, all across the United States, there are hubs. And if you're within any area close to the hub or close to your work, because usually your work is in one of those hubs, an e-bike is a great solution. The other thing is sustainability is becoming more of an increasing focus and important to corporate cultures, right? So everybody's trying to reduce their carbon footprint, right? We have initiatives here in the United States and around cars. How many electric cars? What's going to happen? How do Stromer Bikes contribute to the company's sustainability goals? And how does this align, in your estimation? I mean, because to me, it's just perfect with corporate wellness, employee wellness in particular.
So, nice thing about Stromer is that we can track our riders' data. As I said, every bike has this inbuilt computer on them, and up to this point, basically, I think we started tracking that was in 2014. We had this new integration of this computer to our bike. And from 2014, we have now total of 350 million miles, kilometers written on a Stromer. So a little over 200, basically 200 miles. And most of the users, and because Stromer is still a pretty small player in the US, but most of the users that we collected data from, they are riding from Monday to Friday. So they are clearly commuters. So 5 times a week. And if they do around, I think the average distance per day that they are riding is around 20 miles.
Yeah. 10 miles.
We made 10 miles. Yeah, exactly. So we did a calculation of how much of CO2 um, reduction is that compared to a car. And basically on an annual basis, if you do that right, 3 to 5 times a week, you have an annual reduction of 1.4 tons of CO2 emissions. So that's a clear indication that obviously if you ride an e-bike instead of a car, there is a clear benefit to your sustainability goals.
Yeah, it is. It's an awful good one. And, it's just another reason. So
okay.
So let me just start all over here. Now, Matti, I understand that the amount of CO2 emissions reduced has been pretty substantial since 2009. You started keeping track of this. And it's there's an Omni computer, and I want to repeat for my customers who potentially would be customers that there's a computer that not only tracks it, locks it, GPS, everything. The other factor is this whole leasing program you have up with Sweet Spot. And, because the bikes are exceptionally well made and cost a little bit more, you've created this whole program with Sweet Spot, which is quite enticing for somebody to actually, a company and or an individual to actually do it. Can you explain the reason why you went down the road with Sweet Spot and what the success has been so far in the US with actual leasings, or even in Europe at this point, as you see people leasing bikes and then having an option to really turn those bikes in after 2 years and get a whole new model?
Well, obviously what was the inspiration for that? I always look at Europe, because Europe in this industry, it's ahead of the game. The regulation is better, and whatever they are doing is 5 to 10 years ahead of what's going on in the US. So that's probably 60. Like Belgium is our biggest market where people are commuting, and around 60% of all of our sales in that market is leasing. There's a lot of corporations that offer subsidies for their employees that they will pay for the lease. There's a lot of government incentives for people to lease, and they basically, the regular consumer ends up actually paying really almost nothing for a bike. And those are, I know that those things are coming to the US, and there are already some companies. So I just wanted to kind of move towards that direction, that how do people always look at the price tag of an e-bike, and obviously Stromer is obviously on the higher end of that, but how do we make it that it's attractive for people to actually jump on a Stromer? So we partnered with a company called the Sweet Spot, and it's one of the first companies in the US that are doing bike leasing. And instead of paying $4,000 to $14,000 for a Stromer, you can get a Stromer just around $68 or just under $70 a month to use it. You can sign up for a 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year lease, and that has an insurance included, theft and crash insurance included in that lease. So it's a fantastic option, and we have a couple of companies that actually started adopting that as well. We have one little town actually in Georgia that brought some bikes in just a few months ago, and they have been very excited. And we have talks with police departments, fire departments, and other communities that we are talking, and some other companies that we're talking right now about that leasing. So it is a fantastic way of having people to not commit to a bike if they don't necessarily want to commit to a bike, or pay a bigger price for a bike. And after 2 years, as I said, you can replace the bike or you can just buy it out. So I just wanted to bring this into that.
I think, Matti, it reduces the barrier to entry for both an individual and for a corporation, because corporation can lease these as well. You could lease 10 of them or 12 of them or whatever. That's my point. But the point is too, is that when you do lease for a business, there are tax incentives. So one of the tax incentives is a lease is a write-off. The other thing, it could go under employee benefits. So I want to talk about that because there is this kind of growing trend of companies offering incentives, and you're seeing it. You're saying you're working with cities and municipalities as well to bring the bikes in like you did in Georgia, which is great. I'd love to see that in more and more cities. What advice would you give to businesses out there that are looking to incorporate an e-bike program into their employee benefit plan? So in other words, hey, we've got this benefit. You're going to get obviously a 401k. You're going to get medical insurance. You're going to get this, this, and this. But the key now is the expansion of those benefits and how we actually help them design it.
Well, I mean, the thing is that always you have to look into obviously everybody's looking into the costs. If you look at your health insurance costs, or if your employees are healthier, that's directly going to correlate to the cost that you're actually paying for their health insurance. And then again, wellness, physical wellness or mental wellness, that is something that is not, you don't see it in the next quarter, you don't probably see it in the next year, but over a period of time, you start seeing that in your health insurance costs or whatever are the costs that the companies are incurring. Those are going to be seen after a period of time.
Yeah. So we are aware that programs like these and their statistical analysis that proves, not just, hearsay, that literally having a regular e-bike program where people are commuting to work, and it is 3 times a week, that literally that actually reduces the overall claims cost and the claims overall to the company, which could be for anything from diabetes to heart disease to you name it, that really we want to help reduce. And so we know these e-bike programs are available, and we've made them affordable enough through the leasing programs that anyone listening to this, please contact me. I'm your contact for this. I'd be happy to get you more information about not only the leasing, but also the bikes themselves to make some decisions. And if you're an individual thinking about a bicycle, please reach out to me as well. An e-bike, because we do it. Now, we're seeing this massive flood of e-bikes coming into the United States, many of them from obviously Taiwan, Korea, China, all over the place. You're not seeing as many come in from Switzerland. Okay, it's just not the case. But looking ahead, what innovations or trends, because I was at the CES show, and I tell you, I saw more e-bikes there than I've seen in my life, which just really surprised me. And everybody and their brother trying to get into it. But I look at really the trends in technology, the trends in design, the trends in the materials that they're being made of, right, to make them lighter, because e-bikes normally are pretty heavy. Being heavy, they don't get as much range. What do you think will further support the integration of the Stromer e-bike into corporate wellness programs? And what are the trends that you are seeing, because you're out there all the time seeing your competitors' models and what's going on?
Well, in terms of innovation, obviously cargo bikes are a big thing right now. But I know like everybody's like Stromer is always ahead of the game in many sense, that we're the first bike to integrate connectivity. So we're for sure that's going to happen in the future even more. Connectivity being big part of it, like you can have GPS tracking. Now we're already on the latest model, the SD5 that we just released this year, is that it has a Stromer sound. And it was just a test that we just wanted to see that what can we do with the Stromer sound. I cannot do too many reveals right now, but I mean, I'm hoping that we can integrate GPS technology, and then that integrate that with the Stromer sound. Maybe you won't see the turn right here, but it would give you a sound when you actually have a map on your computer on the bike, and then you can have some sort of a sound that gives you a signal to turn or go right, or all these things. That's probably being one thing. In terms of the heaviness and the bulkiness, I don't know if there's anything that we can do right now other than the battery technology. Solid state battery being a hot topic in the car industry, and Stromer again was the first one that actually introduced that a prototype of that in the last 2023 Eurobike. The technology is coming for sure, and that will make the battery technology even obviously quicker to charge, and also it makes it a little bit lighter and also a lot more reliable in terms of potential risk of fire, for example. Now, at this point, the technology is a very pretty expensive, so it doesn't really make sense right now, but I know for sure that it's coming in the next, let's call it 5 years. So those are the innovations that we're working on right now.
But also, can I add that it's also a reason for people to consider leasing, because what happens is the bikes get recycled, obviously, but at 2 years, 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year, you can turn this bike over, and any new technology, then lease another new bike from us. And I think that's important to remember. There aren't many companies out there that are leasing bicycles. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not just because of our price. It's because we'd really like to have everybody be able to do this and reduce the barrier to entry. I mean, we have prices as low as just below $3,000, as you said, and moving all the way up to $13,000. But so the point is that there's enough models. I want everybody who is listening and is still listening, www.stromerbikes.com. There you can learn more about the bike. Please reach out to me because I can actually direct you, and I can help you set up a corporate e-bike program, wellness e-bike program. And Matti, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with today that are either business owners that might be listening, or wellness officers, or individuals that are out there that you'd want them to know about Stromer Bikes and the quality of the bike, and or the availability of this product here now in the United States, and the ability to access it so much, I would say, easily, having this sweet spot leasing program?
I would just like to say that people many times, especially in this car country, we are hesitant to make a move out of our comfort zone or out of our habits. But I would just say that go for it. I'm coming from Europe. I'm from Finland, and I always used to ride bikes anywhere I would go. And that is actually a way of transportation. We know that there's around everybody in the US who is driving a car, commuting to work, 80% of those people, the commute is less than 5 miles. Less than 5 miles. Think of the benefits of riding your bike. Not even every single day, but let's call it 3 times a week you would ride your bike. You would save money. You would save time, in most cases, especially if you live in an urban area. You would be healthier, physical and mental. And actually that investment that you put into the bike, whether it's a lease or buying a bike, it's well worth it.
And I'll add, you'll save the environment to the tune of 1 point whatever billion the emissions were that you quoted. So I think there's more reasons to do this than to not do it. And so I want to encourage everybody, again, reach out to me. You can reach out to me through the podcast. You'll definitely know how to reach me. And Matti, I want to thank you for being on the show, taking this time to speak with our audience about the benefits of a corporate e-bike program. Also just the overall benefits of the Stromer brand, and the quality that you're bringing to the U.S. for it being made available to people. And thanks for being on the show, and thanks for spending this time. Namaste to you.
Absolutely. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast on Inside Personal Growth. We appreciate your support. And for more information about new podcasts, please go to InsidePersonalGrowth.com or any of your favorite channels to listen to our podcast. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.